Your graffiti design is going to come to you in 4 sheets of paper. I have taken original designs and I scanned those into the computer and resized them to fill up our canvas that measures 12 by 16. So what you'll notice is when you lay this out to reform your design is that there's some gaps on the borders, on the edges of our paper. And you'll notice that there are also crop marks on that paper. And you're going to find those crop marks on 2 sides of each sheet of paper. We're going to first line those crop marks up with a ruler and draw a straight line, because we're going to have to trim some of these pieces of paper to assemble this together. So we want a line going all the way across so that when we trim, we are as straight as possible in our trimming. So that's what I'm going to do first. So I now have all of my crop sides outlined, and I'm going to trim a few of these pages up. So I'm going to go one at a time. Now we're only going to cut off certain edges because when we assemble this, it's going to be easier to put it together if we have paper to overlap sides with when we line up our design. So all I'm going to use is some tape and scissors to assemble this together. So my upper left I'm going to leave as is. I'm not going to trim any edges, and I'm going to just trim the left edge of my upper right section of my design so that when I line up the design together, this one will overlap this edge that I leave on. So let me demonstrate that to you so it's clearer. So I'm just going to cut off this left edge. Now that this left edge is cut off, I can line up my design so that it matches up. And the right edge I left on this upper left corner is going to give me something to tape this page to. So once I have my design lined up, I'm going to put a couple pieces taped just on the front. And I'm going to go ahead and put those over top of my design. I don't want to put them too far up into the white space because we will be trimming this so that this will fit directly over top of our canvas. So now I'm going to grab my lower left part of my design, and I'm again going to just trim off one edge, and I'm going to trim off the top edge so I can overlap it onto this and match up my design. So now that I have that cut off, I can lay this over top, match up my design, And once I have my design matched up, again, place some tape. So that leaves my last corner. Now, since I have some border below my upper right part of the design and border to the right of my lower left part of the design, I can trim up both of these edges to be able to attach it. So now that I have that trimmed, I can just lay this down, match it up to both parts of my design. And once I have it lined up, just tape this down and my design is together and ready for the next step. So there is my graffiti design all assembled. My next step is to trim up the outer edges of my paper so that it fits on to my 12 by 16 canvas without any extra paper hanging over. So I'm going to grab my canvas and I'm going to lay it over top of my design. And before I trace around this, I'm just going to give myself a couple little markers to see if I have it pretty well centered. Again, it doesn't have to be perfectly centered. I just want to make sure that all parts of my design are going to be on my canvas. So that looks pretty good there. So I'm going to lay this back down, line back up to those marks I just created. And now I'm going to trace around my canvas. Now that I've traced around here, I'm going to trim off the excess white paper. This is why I said you don't want to put your tape all the way out here to the white spaces and keep it over top of your design. And that will get rid of any excess paper that I won't need in the next process of transferring my design to my canvas. So I'm going to trim this up with my scissors. So now my design is trimmed and it's ready for preparing it to transfer to my canvas. So that will be the next video, taking our design and transferring it to our canvas.